Brandon Valles, last one. He says, "Hi Keon, with Real Madrid having adopted a more NFL, NBA type model in the last 2 decades with more marketing and international focus compared to other clubs, what are your thoughts on ticket prices? The prices for the Inter and Atletico game are as high as they've ever been. This seems logical, considering the extravagant additions to the stadium. As an international fan, I enjoy watching the club become more innovative with all aspects of the club. However, if this directly leads to a rise in ticket prices, I can't help but feel bad for match-going fans who have to pay these prices just to get into the door. Do you think this is a necessary byproduct of the club's innovation strategies, or do you think there should be an effort to keep ticket prices down? I asked you particularly because you are an international supporter like myself, but I'd also like to know Lucas's take as well to get the Spanish perspective. Cheers."
Well, Brendan, I think that we should not forget that every club in European football were not able to add revenue from ticketing for at least an entire season and half of another season. So I think that that's one of the main reasons why the teams have increased their prices for the ticketing. As a note, as some listeners may know, I'm a huge MotoGP fan. I traveled to see two different races this year and found that the tickets have been increased by a third, by 30% or so from other different seasons. So I think that speaks volumes about the fact that the companies are trying to balance the loss they had for an entire year and maybe even more, due to the fact that the fans couldn't attend these stadiums, and also obviously the fact that Real Madrid is going to get pretty much a full house in every home game. It makes it also very hard for the club to decrease the ticketing, because as we know, for the regular games in La Liga and against regular opposition and no big games, a big percentage of the attendance comes from tourists. So I think that ultimately the club doesn't care a lot about the prices and the ticketing and all that. So I think that the pandemic has a lot to do with increasing in ticketing.
It is. It's one of those things where it's like, it is what it is, and it's unfortunate because, like, on one hand, part of this is only going to become more of a thing. It's not going to it's going to get more expensive than before. It's going to get cheaper unless there's another complete global shutdown, in which case maybe there's no football or no fans at all, which is a different story. But like, we're talking about part of the reason this renovation took place was to increase stadium revenue. Now, part of the byproduct of these renovations, you're getting more revenue from other things outside of ticket sales, like, you're a landlord to a shopping center, you're a hotel, they're going to sublease other things to other companies. Also, they've decreased the seating capacity, and they're going to be charging more to compensate for it. I think, like, from a business model, it makes sense. I guess the issue is, I think we're going to have to expect that the atmosphere, in my opinion,
sure,
it's going to get worse.
Yeah. And it's been getting worse since the Galacticos years, when again the tourists were a big percentage of the fan base in the stadium week in and week out. So it's only get worse because it's going to be more expensive, and maybe only the tourists are going to attend the stadium in a big percentage. Obviously, the regulars will still be there, but also the tourists, and that obviously affects the atmosphere.
Rich tourists as well, and
yeah.
I have some issue with all this, just from, and again, I understand the business model, but the last couple trips to, I guess, the last couple years now, with a huge gap in between for the pandemic, I've noticed more and more just the atmosphere at the Bernabeu dying, and more tourists. And I'm not even talking about diehard tourists. I'm talking about casual tourists who have no idea what is even happening at the stadium. They just think like, oh, I have to go to this game because I'm in the city. I've overheard, like, my last trip there, I overheard a group of people from Canada, actually funny, they were talking, and they were like, so what game is this? Who are they playing? And like, it doesn't seem that crazy. Like the NFL is more, they had no idea what they were walking into. A lot of people like that, and the atmosphere will just get more and more subdued because the really passionate fans won't be able to afford to go into the stadium.
Right.
And if you look at some just old games, footage from the 90s, 80s, go watch like a Clasico. Go watch, like, for example, Real Madrid 5, Barcelona 0 from 1994-1995 season. And just see, like, the stadium looks like it's going to explode. It looks like the fans are going to, like, on top of the pitch, like the gate is going to come crashing down. There's flares everywhere. Just people losing their minds. It just doesn't happen anymore. You can't, because they're not in the stadium. They're all outside causing a ruckus. And that's fine because, you got the ultras out and it's safer now. But that's not everybody. Not everyone is just an ultra causing problems. There's a lot of just good people who won't be able to afford, who are really passionate fans who would make a lot of noise in the stadium that just really won't be there unless it's a really big game. And then maybe they'll save for the big games and they'll be there for the big games. But just a random kickoff, like for example against Rayo Vallecano or even whoever, it's not going to be as good as it used to be.
Yeah, and Kiyan, also at the same time, the fans and the hardcore fans are pushing the club towards making big signings, and in order to do that, you need to increase your revenue. So, even Real Madrid's hands are quote unquote a bit trapped here, because the fans are pushing me to make big signings, but at the same time they don't want to increase the price for the tickets. So it's definitely a hard balance. But again, it's the way the whole world and the whole product and the whole companies are going to, because again, my own individual experience is that it's like 30% more expensive to attend to a MotoGP race right now than it was one or 2 years ago. So it's the way it's going.
Well, it's gonna be kind of just a double-edged sword. You pick your poison. You want your high ticket transfers, you want your superstars, you want a massive brand, you want to increase revenue. It comes with the territory. But yeah, I hope that the atmosphere won't suffer too much, but I think it will.